Hello and welcome back to the Mr. Arsenal podcast with myself, and as you can see, James Rowe is joining me tonight. How you doing, James?
Very well, thank you. Long time no see. What's it?
Yeah,
What's
been a
it been?
while.
What's it been? 48 hours? No, 48 hours.
What time did you finish on Sunday? I'm trying to think now. Yeah,
Yeah.
about 48 hours, give or take.
Yeah, about 48 hours. A big thank you to Transport for London for getting Ryan home safely to where he's got to go on the Piccadilly line, and also myself in London and then on to Amsterdam. So a big thank you to Transport to London. It was a nice walk back from the Emirates to Arsenal Tube with Ryan, and good fun. So nice to be on again.
Yep, and also we didn't bump into lots of James, Graham, the judges, Lottie, and George and all that. We popped back, and Nina, Sam came running literally.
Yeah. He was a bit shocked. So I did tell him I was going to Nottingham Forest at home, but yeah, he saw me from afar and he came running as we were taking shelter from the rain. But a lovely way to finish my last Premier League home game this season. I'll be at the Emirates for potentially the final time this season, draws pending against Zurich on Thursday. But a lovely day, both on and off the pitch, and played really, really well. And just keep going. A couple more games before the World Cup starts in 19 days' time, and very interesting times ahead.
Very, very interesting. Before we get into the Forest game on Sunday, what your thoughts and what my thoughts were on the game itself. As we didn't get to do it on Friday, how was your trip? I know we've discussed it, but to tell the viewers and the listeners, how was your trip on Thursday? Yeah. Against PSV. The days are getting mixed up now. So.
Yeah, well, it's a busy week. We're 3 in a week, but during standing still during Corona, this is what you want. There were times during heavy lockdowns in the Netherlands where I wondered if I'd ever get back. So, it's a real privilege to have this particular week. And Eindhoven was really nice. And it was nice to help fellow Gooners in the city of Amsterdam on the squares, not to be fleeced for their round of drinks. And I'll tell you a few anecdotes. I was with, it's quite normal here in the Netherlands that when it's good weather, on a social setting, you can always go out and sit on a terrace. And it'll be like on a square where the waiter will come to you and ask if you want anything in particular. So we had, I took what they call a terrasje in Dutch, a terrace with a couple of Gooners. And we had the waiter come up to us. And obviously, being Arsenal fans, he started to speak in English. And he made it quite clear that the group is going to receive their alcoholic drinks in plastic cups. And I said to him in his mother tongue, and he was a little bit shocked, he almost dropped his tray. I said, "Did you do the same for Bodo Glimt and FC Zurich at home?" And he said, "No." He said, "We've been instructed today to only do it today." So I said, our reputation somewhat precedes us, but it was nice to help a few Gooners, so that they don't get, charged double, or people thinking that they're not gonna pay any notice. But if you've got a local there that doesn't live in Eindhoven but lives in Amsterdam and lives in the country, then obviously they're not going to try anything on. And then with the actual going into the stadium, first and foremost, you had to hand your ticket to the steward. And it was nice to have a chat with her. And I was telling her that I was born and raised in the UK, but emigrated to the Netherlands 16 and a half years in 2 weeks' time. And then the away end at PSV Eindhoven, you go up steel stairs, and then you go through like a tunnel where you've got a long tunnel with all stewards waiting for you. And they had everyone searched. And I was searched by one young lady, and she was really taken aback about speaking mother tongue, because I don't think she expected that. And but obviously from it's my advantage. And she said to me, if you go straight onto the left, you can get a blue wristband that gives you free travel back from Eindhoven to Amsterdam, which is lovely, because even though I have a discount with the train here in the Netherlands with the NS, it literally cost me Eindhoven there and back from Amsterdam, which is an hour and a half, hour 15 minutes if you get the quick train. It cost me €12 return. and the game wasn't great. We really did underestimate PSV, who had an awful result against FC Groningen the weekend before. So they really fought back hard. As I said on this podcast a couple of times, Ryan, there is no doubt Van Nistelrooy talks really, really well. There can be no doubt about that. In terms of his press conferences, he's very friendly, very to the point. He's not rude. I think that's something that's going to hold him in good stead. I really do. And you see a lot of his media training as a player. You can really see that with him as a manager. And we underestimated PSV. Cody Gakpo, Xavi Simons. I did warn you during the live stream we did when I popped on a couple of times for the home leg about Mr. Joey Fearman, and he didn't half prove me right with that great hit. And I'm pleased. I was pleased that Ramsdale started, but he's got that little bit of European experience now. I wonder if he's going to play against FC Zurich. And, so if he does play Champions League football next year in the Allianz, in the Bernabeu, or in the San Siro, then he's got that little bit of experience to fall back on. But it wasn't the greatest performance, but congratulations to PSV. All the PSV fans singing the famous Monty Python song, Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, when they was 2-0 up, was quite funny. But they've got a good sense of humour. My train journey down from Amsterdam, the further down you go, Utrecht and Hertogenbosch towards Eindhoven, that more and more PSV fans were getting in the train. And, I didn't say, hello, my name is James, I'm an Arsenal fan. You just sit there and be polite. And I heard two young PSV fans, I think they must have been in their early to mid-20s. And one of them said, yeah, Arsenal have only lost one game this season. And that was away at United. They've done really, really well. And it was on the tip of my tongue to say to him, I didn't, but it was on the tip of my tongue to say, you are right. But I was also at the home games against Aston Villa and Fulham, and both of them could have easily been draws. So, a good European night, great experience nonetheless. Delighted to have a second European away day, Ajax in 2003 and PSV in 2022, and I'm hopeful of a Real Betis or a Real Sociedad at some point in this Europa League season. But we'll just have to wait and see. You have to take your chances when they come. The important thing is it was a wonderful experience, to help fellow Gooners to be in complete control, to be taken completely seriously. It's great, but it's testament to the hard work. When you emigrate to a country, when you have a good command of the language, where you end up interviewing, players that played in World Cups and players that, went on to achieve great things with the national team. It's testament to that, but it's always important to stay modest, of course.
Oh yes, 100%. And just as you touched on it down about Ramsdale and all that, about obviously his debut, and if we were to make the Champions League next season, it's good to have that experience. And for me, I do want Ramsdale to play on Thursday. I do want. If I'm honest, I don't. I've said this. I think I've said this to you before, and I said it on the podcast before. I'm not a fan of this. The number 2 goalkeeper for your club, if you're in Europe, is your number 1 for European football. If my number 1 in general isn't available, again, call me old-fashioned because I've grown up with this. David Seaman and then Lehman.
Yeah.
If a number 1's available, he has to play.
Yeah. If he's fit as well.
Yeah, if he's fit. Yes, I'll tell you, if he's available and he's fit and there's no injury concerns whatsoever, he has to play. And again, I think I said this to you last week when we were doing our back and forth for the home leg. We've got players in this squad that haven't played European football up to this season, even though they probably have done now, but up to this point. And the likes of them still hadn't until Thursday. And the more he gets experience-wise now, the more prepared he is, and the more prepared the other players are that haven't got that experience as an individual or as a unit, the more prepared we will be next season. Because it's all well and good putting Matt Turner. He ain't done. Don't get me wrong. Matt Turner's done nothing wrong, and he has played for us in the Europa League so far this season. Touch wood. But yeah, it's all well and good qualifying for the Champions League, and then come the Champions League. Oh, by the way, Ramsdale's even he's our number 1 goalkeeper, and you know what? It's Champions League now. Sorry, Matt, you're on the bench. Ramsdale, you're playing, and then it's a deer in headlights because it's a first for him, and that's when mistakes come into play that could knock his confidence, and not just for the club level, but from an international point of view, because he's got a big chance at this moment in time to put his claim as number one. Got competition, but he's got a good chance. And along with Ben White and players like that, and so I do want to see more consistent. I think we will see it more so in the knockout rounds now after this Thursday. But I do want to see him play on Thursday. But I think knockout rounds onwards, we're going to see the bulk of our first team, as long as they're available and injury free, playing, and they need to play because they need to be prepared, because if they don't, we know what's coming if we do qualify for Champions League next season. Touch wood.
Well, I think you make a great point about Ramsdale playing at home as Jurich, and then he's got two different scenarios. He's played at home in Europe and he's played away in Europe. And FC Zurich, if they beat us, they go into the Conference League. So that's enough motivation for them. And I think as well with the Champions League, the key thing for me, Ryan, is next season's Champions League is the last one before it gets completely revamped and becomes a European Super League in everything but name. So it literally, if we are Arsenal and we're going to win that cup, we've got to, in theory, qualify this year and win it next. I know both scenarios. I know the second scenario in particular is highly unlikely, but you know, we had a quarter of a century of participation where just to be included was enough. I mean, I still remember my first ever Champions League game against Dynamo Kiev as a 15-year-old. And I remember the programme. I remember going to Wembley. Bergkamp scored for us. Shevchenko scored for them. Revrov also played. And I remember flicking through the programme, and they had like the other groups. And I'd never seen it before. I mean, I was too young to remember Benfica with Isaias in 1992, but even that was only on VHS, and I never saw that live. I remember the first leg in Lisbon where I thought that the word ricochet actually meant a Portuguese winger, but it wasn't. It was the word ricochet. and you know, so it's the first time I had it in my hand, and I remember groups like PSV and Stellenbosch and a couple of others, and I remember sitting at Wembley with an older gentleman, and he said to me, "Oh, this is great, isn't it?" And I wasn't rude to him, but obviously as a 15-year-old, highly motivated gooner, I remember saying to him that, "Excuse me, we're in this to win it. We're not in it just to participate."
Yeah.
And then, you know, getting beat by Lens, getting beat by Fiorentina, moving to Highbury, and then getting to the quarterfinal straight away, winning the first leg, and then going to Mestalla. And I still remember the radio commentary, you know, where they had the likes of Angulo, they had the likes of John Carew, they had the likes of Santiago Canizares. And I remember when that goal went in, where we're not going to make it to the semi-final, and they went on to lose the final, Valencia. How different that would have been. And you know, I remember the group phases, and I think I've still got the programs, because back then I was still an avid collector. But that season, when we was back at Highbury in the Champions League, I believe the only game I got to was Shakhtar Donetsk. And back then, this is, I believe, September 2001, nobody knew who they were. Nobody. Obviously, Shakhtar is now a household name in Ukrainian football and European football, having won a European trophy. But back then, nobody knew who they were. It was like the ticket going spare that you couldn't get shot of. Do you want it, James? Yeah, I love it. It's European football, isn't it? But it's all part of the memories. I think we were 1-0 down in that game, and I think Keown scored twice.
Martin Keown twice.
Yeah, and unreal. And I remember the following seasons. I think it was the following season after that, I managed to get to a fair few European games. I think it was I went to all the home games, and here in Amsterdam changed my life completely, you know. So thanks to Arsenal and thanks to UEFA, because if that draw would have never taken place in the second group phase, I might not be talking to you now, especially not from where I am. But it just goes to show with European football, we've got so many memories, but the memories where it's all about winning, we haven't got that many.
Very far few, yeah.
And as I said to you outside the stadium on Sunday, I don't want to face Rennes, Real Betis, or Real Sociedad. I also said it to Sam in a WhatsApp chat. But other teams in the Europa League, I'm not scared of any. But I am wary, however, of Real Betis, Real Sociedad, and Rennes. And you made a great point on Sunday where you said that they played us in London in 2019, not so long ago. But how many people wasn't really awake to the fact that they are a good side? I mean, they had Clement Grenier, they had Ben Arfa, they had Benjamin Borgio, who I cannot believe for the life of me still hasn't been picked up. I remember reading on a BBC website that Leicester were looking at him for £8 million. Well, if I had £8 million, I'd pay the money. Yeah. He's that good. But I suppose it's just a sign of the times where if it's not worth 50 million quid, he must be rubbish. And as I've said on this channel a fair few times, as I've said on the channel a fair few times, Ryan, as well, that you know, I always encourage fellow fans, whether they're Arsenal fans, whether they're football fans, if there's a player that you like, that you think, oh, he's pretty good or she's pretty good, keep an eye on them. Just keep an eye on them. See what they're up to. You know, I mean, people will know that I'm a huge fan of Mark Albrighton. I know he's not a spring chicken anymore, but it is an absolute disgrace that the man's never been capped by England. I've never seen him give the ball away. And he was as important to Leicester in that championship season as Jamie Vardy and Riyad Mahrez. And he's never been capped by England. I find it absolutely unbelievable. The same as Brian Linson in the Netherlands. He now plays his football in Japan. And you would think, oh, if he's playing in Japan, maybe he's kind of tailed off. He's still good enough to play at the highest level. Again, I cannot understand for the life of me how he has not been capped. The amount of goals and assists he provided for Vitesse and Feyenoord, and before that, what he did for Heracles Almelo and Groningen, nothing short of incredible. But you see how he didn't quite get that luck. And then Denzel Dumfries, although he plays in a different position, coming up the traditional way, Sparta Rotterdam, Heerenveen, PSV, and now Inter Milan, and being linked with Chelsea, he was very much a late bloomer. But it's just very much a sign of the times. I mean, we're going to speak about the Forest game, and what's Sam Surridge doing on the bench? I think he's a very good player. What's he doing on the bench? I mean, I'm not a Forest fan.
And again, he was a key part. Yeah, again, about the key parts about Leicester, about Albright. He was a key part about Forest getting up last season.
Exactly. What's he doing on the bench?
And the cup run. Let's not forget the cup run either. They had.
No, and it's I couldn't believe Bournemouth let him go, and I think he had a loan spell at Stoke. I think.
Rings a bell.
And I looked at their starting lineup, and it's something I've always done since I was a kid. You know, when you look at the lineups of the opponent, you're always thinking, I rate Yates. I think he's good. Freuler, it's the number 23 for Forest. Played for Gladbach, and every time I've seen him play for Switzerland, he's looked really good. So I knew that Yates and Freuler would be good players, but I couldn't believe with Sam Surridge on the bench. Couldn't believe that. But again, it's as if that, Forest, massive football club. They've won something twice that we haven't won once. That's all. So that's just about that one. In an age where it was very difficult to win it. I'm not saying it's not difficult now, but in that age, you only had the champion, and Forest also knocked out Ajax, I believe, when they had their the players coming towards the end of that magnificent 70s team, but still, you still got to knock them out. And I just think Forest got promoted off the back of a knee, which was an own goal from a Chelsea loanee. And you see about the fine lines in professional football. By the same token, Huddersfield would have gone up, and Forest would have stayed down, and Huddersfield look as if they're going to have a job to stay up. So that's when you really understand that the timing is nothing short of incredible.
No, exactly. And I think another thing with Forest as well that is coming apparent is it gets mentioned, but I'm going to mention it in a different way. Is because they had to, again, I'm not going to have a dig at them buying players, the amount of players they did, because they had to buy players. They had to buy experience along with the other players, etc., that bulked their squad out, because people tend to forget with the Forest team last year, but the bulk of that squad was players that were on loan from X, Y, and Z. Jed Spank being one of the big players from Forest last year. He was on loan from Middlesbrough, who's now went back, wasn't given the option to go back to Forest, was sold immediately to Tottenham, and he's not getting looking now. And for a manager, didn't even want him, apparently, from what we're being told via people X, Y, and Z. And so Forest had to replace them players and add experience along the way. But the problem that comes with that is constantly the 11 keeps changing in terms of the outfield play. The goalkeepers are only, or even though he's on loan from Man United and Henderson, he's the only constant. There's always a mix-up in the defence. There'll be a tweak here and there, different day on midfield. With Justin Lingard's plays the odd game here and there, and he's non-existent from what we're seeing so far this season. With all due respect to the lad, and the striker, they haven't. In a league where you need goals, especially to stay up, even to stay up, you need goals. You need a striker that's going to be. He is the main part. That he is, no matter what, unless he's injured, like we said about Ramsey and all that earlier, unless he is injured, he is the vocal point. He is the starter, no matter what. And I thought when they brought Emmanuel Dennis in, I thought maybe he'll be the one, because he's got that experience at Watford at Premier League level. But again, it's like hit and miss. It's like they're trying to share the minutes around, and you can't do that, especially with a team that's been out of the league for so long.
Exactly. Almost a quarter of a century. And, I interviewed Harry Toffolo last season when he was at Huddersfield, and he was, the opportunity to play in the Premier League. He even mentioned Lewis O'Brien, his compatriot, who came on as a sub on Sunday. But you just see that, Forest signed a player called, I think, Julian Bancone at Troyes.
Yeah.
Now, he's a very good player. How comes he doesn't start? I mean, I'm not a manager, but if I'm Forest manager, Bancone is starting, Surridge is starting, Freuler is starting, and Yates is starting. And then you build the rest around that. And I think with Dean Henderson as well, I know he's a very confident young man, and that's a great thing to have, that confidence. But I don't think he's going to the World Cup. And if he doesn't go to the World Cup and he doesn't enjoy that decision, the Netherlands here, they're talking about 4 goalkeepers, and Van Gaal's a little bit overzealous with the penalty science, where he's wanting to take reaction times and measure people's wrists and all that, and the reach and all that. And I just think that Dean Henderson, the interview that he gave on TalkSport as well on the eve of the season, I don't know who signed that off. Also, with the unveiling of Lingard, the small details make a massive difference. And I went for that Forest job of press officer. I mean, it's that. I don't know if the people I don't know if the people watching know that, but I went for that Forest job, and they gave me feedback on my birthday that I didn't make it. Okay, fine, but it was great to get feedback from such a wonderful club. But if I'd have got it, I certainly wouldn't be printing shirts of Jay Lings. I certainly wouldn't be, sending out tweets saying, we're ready for the Wolf, trying to chastise Wolverhampton Wanderers, especially away from home at Molineux. I would be looking to the past a little bit and evoking the spirit of Clough and Frank Clark. And it's not even my club, but you're talking about professionalism. I would be evoking the spirit of Brian Clough and Frank Clark and that kind of thing. Obviously, having interviewed the Nottingham Forest all-time Premier League top scorer, which is, I think, in the Premier League, Brian Roy, when he spoke to me about Forest, he said to me, James, if we'd have kept Stan Collymore, who went on to sign for Liverpool, if we'd have kept him, I'm convinced we would have won the league. And that was a player who, was playing really well for Forest. And I just think that, it's a long old season, but I just think that within the realms of professional football now, that there are awash with money, but it doesn't mean to say that you have to kind of let your guard slip. You've got to be literally on it. You've got to be literally on it. And I just think that Forest, they've just rushed a couple of things. They've just rushed. Like you said, a great point about needing goals. So be very interesting to see how it goes, and looking forward to Thursday as well. Before I sign off, Ryan, I wanted to say about the amazing work from Gabriel Jesus and Martin Odegaard for Reece Nelson's second goal. I was right on the 18-yard box for that, and they'll be showing that on the big screen at the Emirates before too long, along with Rocky's amazing goal and Ian Wright breaking the record and Thierry Henry's goal against Spurs. It was just amazing intricacy, and I know that Reece Nelson came to the Netherlands, but when he arrived here at Feyenoord on loan, when he arrived in the Netherlands, the manager Arne Slot said he wasn't fit, and he also had kind of like a muscle problem which needed to be healed. And also as well, I hope that Reece Nelson can now kickstart his career, because he's obviously a very intelligent young man. But my personal opinion is, Ryan, I don't think he was completely aware of the size of a club like Feyenoord, where yes, PSV and Ajax are bigger, but in terms of club affection and player affection, Feyenoord are number one. If they see their player giving their all, they will fight tooth and nail for him, and they will stand by him in the good times and the bad, when he doesn't have a good game and that kind of thing. And I'm not quite sure that Reece Nelson really grasped that opportunity with both hands. But I did say to the guy next to me in the North Bank that we have a lot to thank Feyenoord for regarding Reece Nelson, and we have a lot to thank William Saliba, Marseille for regarding William Saliba, because every time I see him, he looks better and better and better. And we've got to try to keep him out of the clutches of Paris Saint-Germain, because I think they're going to, if he carries on like this, they will be in for him next summer. There's no doubt about that. I mean, but I think I said before, shortly before I go, and I'll say it once again, because I think it's the most important part. People are saying that Saliba is a Rolls Royce of a defender, and he is. He's been amazing this season. But I think the most impressive thing for me, you arrive at Arsenal, you can't get a game for the under-23s, you are overlooked, you weren't allowed to play in the cup final for St Etienne against Paris Saint-Germain, you were told you can't play. St Etienne lost that final 1-0 to Paris Saint-Germain and are now a second division team. Imagine going through all that, as well as, I think, a personal loss.
Personal losses, yeah.
Yeah, and personal losses. And imagine going through all that and then coming out the other side being the defender you are. So for me, it's not just about the football with Saliba. I think the human element of him, I think we've got to start calling him Superman, because that is nothing short of unreal. I tip my hat to him.
Yeah, sorry, before we wrap things up, I've been saying that as well. It's not just this season when he's been playing for us, but I've seen it last season with the reports of what I've seen of him at Marseille and what the reports were getting week by week. And I was saying the things that he's got. He signed first, went back to St Etienne, and his attitude straight from the off was, I want to iron out the kinks. I want to be the best I can be for Arsenal. Obviously, then COVID hit that season, and the season got cut short. And then, as you said, the final, he got told he couldn't go to that play that final, whether the extended loan, etc. Like you say, and amongst all that going off there, he has a couple of personal losses, as we just touched on there. The mental fatigue he would have been going through at that time, and then, as you say, we tried to get him out on loan back to the Ligue 1, didn't work out in that summer. So put him into the under 23 squad or under 21 squad. So he couldn't get a game, love the money, and when he did, he was a little bit the odd game where he didn't look all right.
Mm.
We eventually got him out to Nice straight away because he's back home with his family, grieving as well as everything else. He started maturing, and he just got on with his game. And then the main thing amongst all this, and as you say, the to and fro for St Etienne and all that, he never once went to the media and went, Arsenal treated me wrong, Arteta's this, Arsenal this, Kroenke's this. He's been the utmost professional for a young lad. He was 19 at the time. He's like 21 now.
Yeah.
For maturity of that ilk, you can't buy that. You cannot buy that, and that's a huge respect to his family as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's very rare, and we've got to enjoy him. You know, I mean, Marseille tonight playing against Spurs, and I love the quote.
Arsenal light, that's what I call them.
Yeah, I love the quote. I saw a quote from Sanchez today where he said that I loved my time at Arsenal, particularly playing with the fans. And Marseille are the biggest club in France. They are. If you say to someone who is the biggest club in France, is Marseille the biggest club in France?
Yeah, if you know your French domestic club history, you know that. You don't go in recent billionaire history.
Yeah. Or I mean, in PSV were a fusion that are only 52 years old. I mean, neither of us are 52, but you know, but you see about the difference in that. And I'm not just saying it because it's Spurs and we're on an Arsenal podcast. I said when the draw was made, Marseille would go through, and I'm sticking to it. I'm sticking to it. And you see about TalkSport saying, "Oh, it's a failure if Spurs don't get through." It's a tough group, is what it is. I mean, we apart from Marseille, we've played the other two opponents in recent years, and we didn't win, and that was in the Europa League. So that tells you all you need to know. We didn't win. We won in Frankfurt, but we didn't. We won in Lisbon, but we didn't beat Frankfurt at home, and we didn't beat Sporting Lisbon at home.
And also with Frankfurt, Lisbon historically a big club and a great club in Portugal. One of obviously Porto, and you got Braga and all that. But Frankfurt have won a European Cup recently. Not the European Cup, but they've won the Europa League. They're in it by merit.
Yeah.
And then when that draw was made, I was like, thank fuck we didn't qualify in actually, because you know what? We would have had it. As difficult as Tottenham have had it, they've got European experience in that team. We've got, as I say, apart from a couple of players in our squad, next to none.
Yeah,
and I think I think again it would have gone down like it has done with this the last match day for all four clubs.
Yeah. No, I think
it would have been squeaky for us to get through by second if we were lucky.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fantastic point. As difficult as they've had it, we would have had it. I think that's an absolutely amazing point, Ryan. I tip my hat. What a way to sign off and finish the segment. Fantastic, pal. Well done.
No pressure to have everyone in. Every other show now. No, but before we wrap things up, I want to get, because obviously you're at the game on Thursday. You're coming back for that.
Mm-hmm.
What are your, as you said, what are your thoughts? What's your score prediction? Because as you said earlier in the stream, Zurich have got something to fight for as well.
Yeah,
they can't just they're not going to just rely on PSV doing their job. Put it that way.
No, they will be motivated. I predict we will win 2-1. I'm going for a 2-1 win. And should we finish second, we've got to be positive, of course. But should we finish second, I don't want to hear a meltdown from Arsenal fans. Finish second, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, Juventus. Oh no! I'm telling you now, Betis are more dangerous than Juventus. Sociedad are more dangerous than Atletico, especially in their own backyard. You know, but as I say, people might say you're mad. No, if you look at the timing, you mentioned Frankfurt. They were knocking on the door. Do you remember Chelsea knocked them out on penalties when they went on to beat us in the final? Yeah. So 3 years they were knocking on the door, having knocked out Inter and I believe knocked out Benfica. So they were knocking on the door when they got knocked out at the semi-final. 3 years later, they win it. So when you're knocking on the door, like Rennes are knocking on the door now. If Rennes finish top, which I think they will, I think they'll win with a shout. I know people will say, "Oh, French teams in Europe," but I mean, I've backed Arsenal, but it's more heart above head. But as I said before, I'll be shocked if the last 8 does not include Arsenal, Real Sociedad, Stade Rennes, and the Real Betis. So never mind the Champions League dropouts. Never mind them. Hopefully we'll get what we need and we'll go through to the last 16. And when that quarterfinal draw is made, hopefully when we were dispatched of the last 16, I can see if my prediction was right.
Yeah, and I've got to agree with you in terms of the teams that are dropping down from the top, the elite competition in Europe. What is the elite competition? You know what I'm saying? These are elite clubs. Barca are not what they used to be. Even now, they're not what they are. What they were. Sorry, in the 5-10 years ago, whenever it was, that golden generation. They're not that team anymore. They've got players, but they're not that. Xavi's earning on the job as well, but again, they're not that. Juventus. Allegri's going through a rebuild. There's a lot of pressure on him, hence why they're falling out. And even more pressure now because they're falling out the way they have. Domestically, they're struggling as well. I think they're outside the European, so around mid-table, outside the European spots. Last time I checked, but they're struggling. Vlahovic, who the entire fan base went into meltdown because we didn't get. He ain't done enough. He ain't pulled up no trees since his little new club burst that he had back in January. He's gone off a performance cliff wise compared to what he was at Fiorentina. I think they got Juventus, they got Atletico Madrid, an aging team. They've got some great players. Don't get me wrong, in Felix and all that.
Yeah.
But still, it's an aging team. We can get at them. They're gettable. The fact that the matter is they're falling out into the Europa League and Club Brugge, who no one gave them a chance. Have only conceded 1 goal in the entire competition so far, and won the group that consists of Porto, Atletico, and Leverkusen.
Yeah, difficult away days. A penny for Real Madrid, a penny for West Brom's thoughts, because I believe the manager of Bruges used to play for West Brom, if memory serves me rightly. And this is what I mean about going and doing something that not everybody thinks about. I mean, imagine if West Brom rang up Carl Hoefkens and said, "Would you like to manage West Brom?" Of course, he would have said yes. And now he's taken Club Brugge, as we say in the Netherlands, to the last 16, and they won't be pushovers. And but it just goes to show a great point as well, Ryan. You can have all the Super Leagues you want. We love this game because there's always surprises. Who was going to say that Benfica, Club Brugge, and potentially Napoli was going to end up in the last 16 of the Champions League this season after the draw was made? Not many. So you can have all your coveting, all your avoiding relegation and closed shop, but the fact remains the real fans love the game because it's unpredictable. That's why we're here. We're here because it's unpredictable in the European Super League. As I said on a channel on your channel a couple of weeks back, nobody can take your memories away from you. They can't wipe your memories away. Your memories of Dortmund at home, Milan at home, Valencia at home. You know, the likes of Atletico Madrid at home as well. Being here in the Netherlands and seeing the likes of Barcelona, Ajax, and Ajax Paris Saint-Germain and Ajax Benfica. Nobody can take your memories away. No. And if you mentioned Atletico, do you remember that the hunger of Atletico when we played them and they knocked us out in the semi-final?
Yeah.
And that team, they are a shadow of what they used to be because the manager has been there too long. And Simeone also said...
The brother does that a lot, actually, because he likes to watch a La Liga football as well. And he said it for the last year and a half, 2 years now, that Simeone's been there too long now. What's it got to take for... And I think winning the title when they did last season before bought him more time. But even then, they've fallen up. They've gone from that height and gone domestically now.
I think they're tired of his voice, and he did a Ferguson where he announced he was going to leave in 2000. Well, Ferguson announced he was going to leave in 2003, and he didn't. Yeah. Simeone announced he was going to leave in 2018, and he didn't. And I bet he regrets that now, because I'm delighted for Unai Emery, but you know, if that Atletico job would have come up, Emery would have been a fantastic opportunity. Would have been a fantastic choice. You know,
Young,
won the
again,
Europa League, with Sevilla. You know, won the Conference League with Villarreal. Give Atletico for that last push. But as we say, timing is really important.
yeah. And again, Unai with players like Felix at his fingertips, basically would have performed wonders, possibly, especially in La Liga, because mother tongue in terms of being in it's a Spanish team, one of the biggest teams in Spain as well. Confidence-wise, massive confidence boost, a chance to prove himself even more so at a so-called elite European club. When I say that, I mean because obviously people won't regard what he's done at Sevilla and historically and more recently in Villarreal. They won't regard that as the big achievements. There's people out there that won't recognise that because it doesn't suit their agenda and attacking Unai for whatever reason.
Well, more for them, but they will not be able.
5 finals.
They will not be able to tell you. Yeah, 4. But
5. He won 5 finals and won 4.
Yeah, but not just that, Ryan. He got Almeria promoted for the first time in 24 years.
And his first job.
About that.
His first job.
No, nobody talks about that, but he got Almeria promoted for the first time in 24 years, and I think they beat Valencia, and I think they drew with Barcelona.
Yeah, you know, and as we said, we spoke about the other day. I think it was on the channel itself, not in person, but exactly about the other day about obviously when he's been appointed for the manager.
Yeah,
you've got the English media over there that work for fucking basically on TalkSport, but work for Sky basically, going. Oh, I don't know, but I'm not sure about Unai. He's never been in a relegation battle. But he said he had to go through that with his first ever job once he got promoted.
Exactly. I read an article today, Ajax Rangers tonight. Maybe I'm too old-fashioned, and maybe I'm people will say, "Oh, James, you're too old." I'm not that old. The written article, Ryan, they didn't put the Dutch names of the teams properly. It read like they were place names. Volbag, Volendam, Heerenveen. But these are place names. They're not football clubs.
No.
SC Heerenveen, FC Volendam, RKC Volbag, which translates to Roman Catholic combination of Volbag. And maybe it's just me, but BBC signed that off. BBC signed it.
I've said this before. Just in general, from UK media in general is just lazy.
Yeah.
And lazy, arrogant. Yeah, it's the main two. Just ignorance. Ignorance is the key word.
Well, absolutely. I mean, when I did my interviews and I do everything written, you go out of your way to make sure it's written. You write it what it is. If it's Stade Rennais, then you write Stade Rennais. If you're talking about Heerenveen, you're not talking about the city of Heerenveen. You're talking about SC Heerenveen, which translates to Sporting Club Heerenveen, and that kind of thing. But it's been an absolute pleasure tonight, Ryan. Really enjoyed it, pal, and I hope everybody else has. And we will catch up soon. Hopefully, we don't have to do a show where we have to talk about our opponent for the game in February if we don't win on Thursday, but I believe we will. But if we do finish second, then we'll have to get on and do another show and speak about the opponent. Yeah, I believe the draw for that is the 7th of November. So I'll leave it with the viewers that if we do finish second, I don't think we will. I think we'll win 2-1. But should we finish second, I shall be back on to discuss our potential Champions League opponent, and it could well be Ajax. Who knows? And then there's no trains, there's no buses, there's no planes.
I don't think
just simply crossing the road. So that'd be quite nice.
Yeah, I don't think the judges won't go back to Ireland. Go back to Holland immediately.
No. Well, I did. Well, obviously, I know Lee. We are friends.
Yeah.
And obviously, he's got his commitments. When the draw was made, I said to him, "Look, you can have our spare room if you want it. If you want the spare room during your stay, you can have it." And he said, "James," he said, "if I was coming on my own, I would have taken you up on that offer. He said, but we're coming as part of a group, so therefore we're getting a hotel. But I think that I think he thinks to himself now. He wishes he'd taken me up on that offer. But I did say to him on Sunday that if we get Ajax, literally all you got to do is cross the road. So you've even got time for a cup of tea.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Indeed.
Yeah, I think
tonight.
home advantage is going to be key on Thursday. Sorry, I think we're going to win as well. I think a 2-1, 2-0 or 2-1. I can't. Till I've seen the lineup myself, I think we need to go strong first off, especially just kill the game if we can, and then start, because we've got a big game on Sunday. The key players are going to start.
Yeah.
5 big ones, obviously. Get them off, get them rested, ready for Sunday.
Yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't look like Saka's. I think it looks like Saka's going to have the Thursday night off.
Yeah, and that's good. Sensible.
There's rumours he might be back for Sunday, but Thursday, I'd completely, no matter what, precautions, whatever they want to call it.
Yeah.
Stay at home, Saka.
Yeah, exactly. And also, you could argue, stay at home for the North London derby and getting back for Wolves, getting back game in his legs.
I mean the London derby, North London derby.
Yeah, the West London derby. Sorry, West London derby. West against North. My apologies. It's been a long old week, isn't it? But that's what you want. Getting back for give the London derby against Chelsea, North against West. Give that a miss. Getting back for Molineux. Getting back with that last game in his legs before going to Qatar, because what football fans need to understand is players taking it easy the weekend before the World Cup. That is when you are at risk. You've got to play that game as if you play any normal game, and then you'll be ready for the World Cup. When you start shying out of 50-50s or taking it easy, you run the risk of a potential injury or a pull-up, and we can't be having that.
No, exactly, and I don't want that. It's the one out of all the players, I'd be gutted if he now does do that and drops off and basically then becomes a squad player, where he deserves to be the one of our first choice for England, because he's a fantastic player for England. In terms of England, not just for Arsenal, but from English point of view, he gives us something different on the pitch, and we've seen it recently in terms of the Nations League stuff. The Italy game, he plays as a left wing back or whatever. He non-existent in the game because even though he has played his career, it just because he ain't got the players around him, it just didn't work. The second he got played in his proper position where he's been nailed down for his club, you saw a completely different player, contrary to the beliefs of Tottenham fans, but that was the case, and he's key for England in the attacking sense because of what he can give. We see it literally for the first 27 minutes on Sunday in person. We see it consistently anyway. But what he can do, he can either run at the defence or he can get the ball, cut himself back, open himself up, and get that ball in. So it's not even a target man to stop the strike, but he can pick out a player like you saw with Martinelli on a sixpence. You need them sort of players. You need that sort of that versatility in terms of how he plays, but also that vision, the vision that he can show at the end. For a young lad, he's come so far.
Absolutely, and I fully agree, Ryan. And he will not be remembered as just a player that missed a penalty. And I reiterate once again for anybody watching, I will call out that Fulham fan when I was in the clock end next to the away fans. I will call out that Fulham fan in August that was singing, "You let your country down, you let your country down." And I actually shouted to the guy, "What were you doing at the age of 19? It wasn't taking a penalty in a European Cup final, was it?" And then he shut up and said,
exactly. Not even that, on home turf in front of 90,000 of your own fans plus millions watching at home.
Yeah. And once I said that to him about a Euro final, you wasn't taking a penalty, he shut up. But I also said, don't blame Saka. Blame Southgate for spending all of 15 seconds trying to convince him and Jadon Sancho to take a penalties.
Yeah,
an amateur manager wouldn't have done that. If I was in charge of the FA, I'd have sacked him for that alone.
No,
but I also would have sacked him after the worst home performance in 96 years. and I'm convinced that it's gone under the radar. Oh, it was at Molineux, but it still remains the worst result in 96 years. That's just, when I saw the Hungary result, I thought I didn't expect him to be in the job the next morning. I really didn't. And I don't often talk about international football, Ryan, but it's as if the FA, they love to waste time. Yeah, it'll be all right. Yeah, it'll be all right. Don't waste time. Put the best person there. They could have maybe Graham Potter, although he's loving life at Chelsea.
He's now moved on now, yeah.
He's now moved on. Chris Wilder, out of work. Sean Dyche is a good manager. They would be my three. People often say about, it's okay to have a foreign manager. And I say, well, no, you wouldn't accept a foreign prime minister, would you? Should we get rid of Rishi Sunak then and employ Emmanuel Macron? Same thing. Exactly the same thing. And when I say that to people, they're like, oh, you're right. I said, it's not about being right. I said, international football is supposed to be the best of what one country has got against the best of another. When you start blurring the lines, then what's the point? Because what people need to realise is all the success stories from Cameroon to Uruguay, from Portugal to Ghana in 2010, it's their own people that done it. And it's their own people who incentivise the next generation. You know, I mean, my first World Cup in 1990 with Cameroon, Cyril Makanaki, Oman Biig, Roger Miller, Thomas Nkono. How do I still know them names? Because you've never seen anything like it. You were confronted with something new. Those green shirts with a big lion on it, playing with heart, playing with passion, playing with pride. And Cameroon, along with Uruguay in 2010, I think it's the best display of Europe, European, the best display of international pride, I think,
for their respective countries,
but it's priceless, absolutely priceless. And I just think when people like here in the Netherlands, quickly, there's a section that were banging the drum for a foreign coach of the Netherlands, a section of the media, and I said no way. And the story of Dani Alves as well. Dani Alves loved to tell the whole of Brazil that Pep Guardiola was going to become the manager of Brazil, but the public wouldn't have it. Of course, the public wouldn't have it. You're talking about the most glamorous nation on earth, who are probably going to win their 6th title at a canter with their own manager, their own players, and obviously with the election results of Brazil, they're on a high. So I think it's going to be party time in Rio and Sao Paulo and Manaus in Brazil the next couple of weeks, because I think Brazil are going to stroll towards it.
Yeah. Again, it has been a long time coming in that sense, because 2002 they last won the World Cup. So, but yeah, been a couple of decades.
We shall see. I mean, obviously, I want England to win. I'll be keeping a close eye on the Netherlands, of course, being here. But my money is on Brazil.
Brazil haven't. Yes, sorry, Brazil haven't looked this strong since they won it. In terms of my opinion, because every World Cup since, for me, I've always said no, they're not. It's just not the same Brazil. It's not this. It's not that. And even when they hosted it, I was like, they're not going to win it just because they're hosting it. They're not going to win it. And the bookies have them favourites. It's just because they're hosting it. They're the favourites. And I'm like, no, that's not the case, because we've got Germany. I backed Germany that World Cup because what I saw 4 years prior, the South Africa World Cup, that young, vibrant team that got to the semi-final.
Yeah.
And then you add 4 years age onto that, the Mesut Ozils and all that.
Philip Lahm,
Cruz,
Mario
Gomez,
Thomas Müller,
Manuel
Neuer, but Philip Lahm.
All these fantastic players now naming. They were young players at the time, 2010.
Yeah.
Fast forward 4 years, they had that experience, that hunger to go not just one step further into the final, but actually win it.
Yeah,
and they did.
Well done with your bet. I backed Argentina that World Cup, and so well done on that one. One of us was happy. But quickly before I sign off, I was at Ellen. There's a lot of Messi fans, of course. Messi. I was at Ellen Road, and the guy said, "Oh, Argentina, Messi." I said, "Look," I said, "you're entitled to your own opinion." I said, "It's always about respecting the opinions of others." I said, "But look back into history. The winner has always been the best manager with the best players, and there's only ever been 8 teams that have won it." I said, Lionel Scaloni, who was supposed to be caretaker and nothing more, when he comes up against a Van Gaal, a Tite, a Didier Deschamps, a Hansi Flick, I think they're going to turn him inside out. And that's why I don't think Argentina will win it. And I think the outpouring of grief when Messi doesn't win it, I think you'll be able to hear it from where you are.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to hear it where literally you'll be able to hear them crying. Literally, you will be able to hear them crying. Literally, but football doesn't like that. But George Best never played in a World Cup. Johan Cruyff never won it. Eusebio never won it. It's part of life, isn't it? It either happens for you or it doesn't.
And exactly. And it seems ever since Messi broke into that 2006 World Cup squad, it's like, because it obviously in the 4 years on from the next World Cup, it was like, oh, it's Messi. He's gonna carry him to the World. Like, no individual. In modern times, no individual player carries a national team to the final and win it. We saw in France '98 the whole in terms of the final. Just worry about things up. Host nation France against Brazil. The Brazils had Ronaldo, original Ronaldo, by the way, proper Ronaldo.
Yeah, the proper Ronaldo. Who, when you look at his stats, I saw a great quote the other day about Michael Jackson. You know, he was famous as he was, but there was no internet around in those times. But the whole world knew who he was. So there was no internet, but the whole world knew who Michael Jackson was.
Yeah,
and how he transcended music in that respect. And if you look at, as you say about the original Ronaldo, his Dutch for a Brazilian is nothing short of incredible. It's unreal.
It's absolutely
literally every Dutchman that I'll try to send you the video after this. Every Dutchman that listens to the proper Ronaldo speaking Dutch, they get all teary-eyed because they think, wow, you've got possibly one of the greatest of all time, showing the modesty and the intelligence and the character to learn the language to the best of his ability. And he even said in Dutch English that I love my football, and if I can't play football, I'm broken. And literally, when he said that in Dutch, people were literally crying because it's so sincere. It's nothing short of unreal.
No, exactly. And as we've seen, since he's obviously retired, he didn't go into coaching or nothing, from what I can make out. And he's not the same as what he was in terms of having that. He goes to these events, these World Cup events, and all that. But it's just like you can tell he misses the game. He's a bit like Paul Gascoigne. When Gascoigne retired, he tried, even though Gaz had tried management, taking out the equation and all the other stuff for a moment here, personal life. You can tell when you see Paul Gascoigne, you can tell he misses the game. He loves football as much as Ronaldo mentions himself. It's them players that we need to sort of look out for, basically, because they are generational. They are what we've grown up with, and we're respectively in our 30s here.
Yeah,
and the players we've seen throughout the years, and we can literally name 2 to 3 world-class 11s global players, and you wouldn't, no matter what squad you pick, when you pit them up against each other, you wouldn't know who'd win because of how fantastic they were, and how much they loved the game, and how much they appreciate the game from that era.
Yeah,
the way the football's going now, the De Bruynes of this world, once they go on to retire, they're set for life because of what they've got financial wise, but they won't have that appreciation like Ronaldo, like Gaza, like even Dennis Bergkamp from an Arsenal perspective. all them that generational play, because they appreciated what they had. They had to graft to get there, but also graft to hold on to it for the entire career.
Absolutely. And finally, before I sign off, Ryan, I don't.
Yeah, sorry, I held you on for an extra half hour. I do apologise.
No, it's been a wonderful podcast tonight, as it always is with you. Finally, I'd like to give you a massive compliment because we've been doing podcasts for a long time, but I don't think we've ever had a show where you've made such fantastic points as you have tonight. So I tip my hat. I think you're on great form tonight, especially with some great points about the Spurs Champions League group and the proper Ronaldo and the likes of picking Germany in 2014. So I always like to, whenever somebody's due a compliment, I always like to pay it to them. So you've been on great form tonight. Very well done. And let's hope we'll be speaking again soon, but not discussing who the opponent is on the draw of the 7th of November. Let's wait until February.
Hopefully our next podcast will be just before the World Cup and during the World Cup, obviously. But just before the World Cup, players to look out for, teams to look out for, this, that, and the other, and not the latter of playoff games.
We can do maybe a show talking about the Netherlands, for example, and then another show with players to watch out for. And
exactly.
We've got options. As I say, I've got. I'll be at Zurich, and then I'll be at Molineux, and then that'll be me for the year time from when I'm back from Molineux on the 13th of November. So I'll have time that week before the World Cup. We can maybe plan in.
We can talk something at the other time. Once you're back.
We'll work it out if the Netherlands don't make it through the group, which is unlikely. But if they don't and the earth shatters, then I'll be able to give you reaction from this end and stuff like that. So it'll be great fun. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, if the Netherlands don't get out of that group, I don't know what I'll do. Even as a neutral, I don't know what because that they have to win that. Not just get out of it, but win the group. I think that is for me. I'm not just saying it because you're here, but they're going to win the group. Sure, I know there's some decent teams and there's decent teams in that group, but with the experience of Van Gaal, even though there's a young squad, but with the experience of Van Gaal and I'm assuming David and Danny will be taken as even consultants or part of the coaching setup, just as that experience on the touchline.
Yeah.
So, I don't see them struggling in the group. Put it that way.
No, but they've got Danny Blind, Edgar Davids as well. I believe.
Edgar Davids.
Which will also be involved. I interviewed him a couple of years back. But my final point today about Van Gaal, he's got to get the goalkeeping situation sorted.
Quick.
I'm not biased because I've interviewed Mark Flecken, but Mark Flecken deserves to be the number one. I'm not saying it because I interviewed him when he was an unknown and nobody knew who he was. He was playing in the third division of Germany at that time, and he came through the youth set up at Rowe, who are now a first division club. But if you look at his team, Freiburg, they hardly ever concede. They're a great collective, Freiburg, but they hardly ever concede. So if you are in such form where you are hardly conceding a goal, surely you have got to be the number one for your national team. And with Cillessen as well, Cillessen is a competent goalkeeper. There's no doubt about that. But Cillessen appears to be expecting to get the nod. It's as if he's expecting to get it. And I firmly believe if Van Gaal picks Mark Flecken and takes Xavi Simons and takes Danjuma, he'll go a lot further than if he doesn't. But as I say, he's picked 39 players. Only 26 of them can go. So tough decisions for him, and be very interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah. Just before we go, Steve D asked me, saying great stuff between the two of you. You definitely brought both of us brought our A games today, basically.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your kind words.
No, and I second that, obviously. Steve, massively appreciated. And again, for all the watchers and people watching this back, or listeners are watching this on audio, again, thank you very much. If you want to give us a rating on Spotify and all that, be greatly appreciated. as I say, hopefully me and James, the next time we'll be talking on this channel, on this podcast, will not be for a potential playoff draw. It'll be for the World Cup in a few weeks' time. Hopefully, touch wood.
Let's hope so.
Again, hopefully you have a safe journey back to London and have a
thank you very much
and a fantastic night. Hopefully, touch wood, and we get the result we need and all that.
Thank you very much.
And obviously a safe journey back to Amsterdam, obviously.
Thank you very much indeed. And this is what it's all about. And I second, hopefully we won't be speaking in the Champions League playoff, but if we are, then we are, and that's also great fun. So look forward to next time, pal.
Yeah, no worries, mate. And for anyone that's new to the channel, if you want to subscribe, smash that like button and share the content, that's massively appreciated as well. It does help the channel grow, and obviously the more eyes that get on this, the more like it, YouTube's the algorithm will plug it themselves as well and get even more eyes, and we'll grow the community even more quicker than what we are at this current rate, and we are growing it very, very fast. I'm trying to think now. The next time you'll see me, it'll be on Thursday for the Europa League match against Zurich. How did I almost forget that? The last game, for crying out loud. But yeah, I'll be doing the stream for the home game with Zurich. Liam and a few of the guys on for that, as we always do for these watch-alongs. And then on the weekend, we've got possible podcast on Friday evening. Saturday will be the match, even though Arsenal aren't playing at all. On Saturday, be on Sunday, even though Arsenal aren't playing, it'll be match of the day. This is only up one game, then it won't be no point. But we'll play it by ear on that side of things. I'll check that. And then on Sunday, you're getting not just one, you're getting two back-to-back watch-alongs again, because in the broadcasting, in the UK broadcasting system, in their infinite wisdom, they've put the women at one time. I mean, so you got the men at 12. As soon as they finish, the women play, and I'm just like, give them a bit of breathing space. You want the WSL to grow and get more.
Yeah.
Going bang bang. It's like,
yeah.
So yeah, you got to get two back-to-back streams, and both games will be covered on here on the channel. Chelsea v Arsenal, and obviously the Arsenal women are playing away this weekend, I believe. I need to double check that. I think they're playing now. I think it's Villa or something like that. I need to double check. But we'll be covering both games on Sunday, and then we go from there. Yeah, and until then, guys, enjoy the rest of your evening, basically, and hopefully we're all Arsenal light fans tonight. Marseille till we die. for 90 minutes.
Allez, Chris Waddle. Allez, Didier Deschamps.
Until then, as always, up the Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners.
Up the Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners.